Hello everybody, thanks for joining me. Today I'm going to be showing you a technique with blending threads together to make this rainbow coloured buzzer. The hook I'm using is a partridge size 10 grub hook, and I'm using UTC threads 70 denier in red, orange, yellow and chartreuse. UTC threads work well for this because they spin very flat and they're quite translucent, so we can layer the colours on top of each other. For the rib I'm going to be using some fine gold wire. And for the wing buds and thorax, I'm going to be using some green Spanflex or Flexifloss. Now if you want to, you can add more colour with some permanent markers, it takes it quite well. And to finish off, we're going to be covering the whole thing with some UV cure resin. So I'm going to come in with my first thread here, this is red, and make a few loops to secure it down and trim the excess. It's helpful here to have multiple bobbins, as we're going to be changing thread colours often. I'm going to catch in my ribbing material, that fine gold wire, and I'm going to carry that down the side of the hook shank, all the way down and around the bend of the hook. Chironomid pupae tend to have this curved shape when they're at rest in the water, and that's what this is designed to represent. Now carrying the thread smoothly up in nice touching turns along the body, and really we want to be doing this with all of our threads to build up a nice tapered body coming up towards a big bulbous thorax. I'm finished with the red now, so I'm just going to make a 2-turn whip finish and snip away the excess. The next colour is the fire orange, so again I'm going to cast on just behind the eye, snip away the excess, and now I'm going to spin this thread really nice and flat. UTC 70 has multiple fibres, and when you spin it so that it's flat, they can spread out almost like floss, and here I'm encouraging that. You can see that the thread is dividing up into its component strands, and that lets me lay it down and gradually blend it into the colour below. The thread's also slightly translucent, which lets you build up a smooth transition of colours. Now I'm finished with the orange, so I'm going to come in and whip finish that as well. Just a couple of turns to tack everything down. These knots are all going to be covered by the next layer of thread anyway, so it'll be quite secure. For the third colour I'm using yellow. Again, making a few turns to secure, trimming away the excess and spinning the thread flat. You'll see that I'll wiggle the thread side to side. I find that this helps to splay it out, and I'm going to carry that down over the orange and just build up that first layer of translucent colour. Here I'm spinning the thread flat again and coming over the top section to build up a little bit more density in the colour for a nice yellow section. And once again I'm going to come in with the whip finish, just a couple of turns to secure and trim away. The final colour of thread, and the one I'm going to be working with throughout the rest of the video, is this chartreuse colour. As before, come in just behind the hook eye this time. I've been working gradually forward, tie on and trim away the excess. Spin it flat, spread the fibres and blend it down into the yellow. You can do this with as many or as few colours as you like. You can go very natural and have greens blending into browns, or you can go a little bit brighter and jazzier like I have here. For wrapping the rib, I've turned the hook upside down in the vise. I find that this way I'm less likely to catch the wire on the hook point. And I'm just bringing up that rib. This gives a nice segmented effect over the body. This is a buzzer that I like to fish on a cast of 3, quite often as the top buzzer. It's obviously not a natural pattern in the slightest, but having something bright and with a bit of UV and fluorescence can just help to draw in trout and get them interested. And they might see it and turn away, but then the next thing they bump into is your more natural buzzer below. Now for the thorax and the wing buds, I'm using Flexifloss, and I'm coming in below, and I'm slightly unusually in this pattern, I'm tying it from the eye backwards. It gives a really nice effect later, very translucent once we've got the resin on, and I'll show you that in a little while. Here I've just made a couple of loose turns, and that allows me to adjust everything to length. I'm pretty much happy with the length there. Just going to bring it through a little bit further and get it lying nicely underneath the thorax. There we go, I'm happy with that, so a couple of tight turns to secure, and then I'm going to come in with my whip finisher and finish off the fly. Just a single whip finish here. The whole thing's going to be covered in UV resin anyway, and it's very, very durable. Trim off the excess thread and trim off the excess flexifloss. And you can see that's given a really nice effect, that blended colour coming up towards the thorax. To start with, I'm going to build up a little bit of bulk in the thorax, so I'm going to fill that flexifloss loop with some light bug bond. It's a fairly runny resin, it's got the consistency of warm honey, and I'm going to cure that off. And you can see as I rotate the vise there's actually a little bit of light that comes through, a little bit of translucency that picks up the colour. I'm going to bring in a little bit more resin, and using my dubbing needle I'm going to spread that around and make sure that everything is covered all the way all down to the tail. I'm going to smooth out the thorax and make sure that the knot at the head is covered, mostly trying not to get any in the hook eye. You can see this really helps to saturate the colours and it gives a lovely effect. I'm going to come in with my torch and cure off that resin. Make sure that everything's really nice and well cured. Obviously this will continue to harden in the sun. The resin can sometimes dry a little bit tacky, so a coat of varnish over the top can be a good idea, especially if you're using thick coats. Because this is quite a thin layer, I can cure it thoroughly. And there you have it. That's my rainbow buzzer. It's a really good technique. Give it a go and have a little play.